Alright, hi guys. Look, I'm just setting up. I'll just wait for a couple of minutes for people to get into the room and then I will get started. I will be answering questions. Alright, so just so you know, I don't know a lot about the Warlock. Mostly this is what I have learnt from my players. This particular video shouldn't be very long. I would say anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes. I will answer questions, that's certainly going to happen. I will like to point out that I'm only covering the bare basics. This is sort of like 101 information. I'm going to answer your questions at the end of the live stream, so by all means put your questions into the chat. I won't ignore it, I will respond. I'm just going to try to get everything out first and then we'll go from there. There we go. There it is. Excellent. Good. Okay, we will get started. Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I'm going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5e or D&D 5e, and we're going to talk about how to play Dungeons & Dragons 5e, and this is a workshop. This is the Warlock basics. This is 101. This is the first bit of or kernel of information you might need when you are playing a Warlock. Now the first thing about a Warlock is that I'm going to be, if I give you any specific examples during this series, I'm going to be using the pre-made character sheet for the Warlock that you can find on the official Dungeons & Dragons website. Now if you want additional information about the Warlock, you will find the Warlock entry on page 105 of the Player's Handbook, and that details the Warlock. All the information you'll need is there. The Warlock is not a master of magic, but more of a leech, someone who forms an agreement or a pact with an otherworldly patron, or patron should I say. Now in this case I've presented you with a demon, a Balor, and this is our little Warlock here entering into an agreement, but it doesn't need to be a demon. It could be some other creature. It could be something from, say, the far realm, like a beholder if you wanted. You could utilize that as a patron. Yet again, you could swap that one out, and maybe that's not the patron for you. Maybe your patron is a very powerful dragon. There's lots of different ways you can do this. Or maybe something even stranger than that. Maybe it's not a dragon, maybe it's some sort of night-walking creature. Now, the different types of patrons that you can pick up are the Fae, the Fiend, and the Otherworldly, or should I say the Great Old One. Okay? A Warlock's patron either gives them power or they give them information or knowledge that allows them to gain power. That's how a Warlock works. They are actually a really good class for somebody to play when they are starting out and they are a beginner and they want to play a magic user. Now, I normally would not advise anybody to play a magic user when they are starting out. That seems like a very silly thing to do, but you can do it, and I think a Warlock is one of those classes that will allow you to do it without running into too many problems. And the simple reason is because they have so few spells and they're relatively simple. There isn't an awful lot going on that you need to understand, but they do work very differently to the other casters. In fact, they're about as unique as they get. Now, Warlocks are, as I said, really good for beginners, but they are also nowhere near as powerful, I feel, certainly at higher levels. You can probably find that a Warlock will do fine at lower levels. There's not too much going on. They actually seem to work out pretty well, but I've found at the very high tiers of play, they just cannot keep up with something like a Wizard or a Bard or a Cleric. Now, Warlocks are really good at blasting magic or attacking magic. They are good at doing something over and over again. They won't have a lot of different magical skills or spells that they can cast. These things are called invocations, but they can do them often quite repetitively, endlessly. It's almost as if they've got infinite energy to actually produce these spells, and a lot of those invocations do not burn up a spell slot, which is a good thing because they don't get very many. In fact, at first level, you are only going to get one spell slot, which means you can only cast one spell in the day, and that's it. The kinds of how many spells do you get at first level? You're only going to get two. You only know 2 spells. Now, these are first level spells. Your cantrips, you only get 2. It's like almost half the number of the other casters. So therefore, picking up other types of spells that might have a different focus that aren't attacking is often not the choice for a Warlock. A Warlock tends to be a character who picks up spells that does damage, punishes the enemy, pumps out power, gives them more influence to manipulate people. And that's one of the things about the Warlock. Its key focus is blasting magic, but yes, you can take the short rest. And this is one of the things, I'm going to go into the short rest with the Warlock. Warlocks have a tendency to have to short rest often, pretty much after every single engagement. I found that almost everybody who's ever played a Warlock at my table has insisted or really wanted to have a short rest, and the reason being is they burnt everything up during that combat session. But Warlocks are really good at manipulation and knowledge. That's their speciality, but because they've usually got to have a high charisma, the thing you want to be looking for is manipulation. And the types of manipulation they use aren't the sorts of things that are just sort of gentle persuasion. They are a little bit darker in their nature. So, as I said, the fundamentals of a Warlock: manipulating people and creatures through trickery, the deception skill. It's one of their proficiencies. They can pick that up if they want to. Or if you're really, it's a bit tricky to pick up intimidation and threatening the NPCs and the creatures that you interact with all the time. This is because you're not exactly intimidating. You're certainly dark and mysterious, but as a physical specimen, you're probably not going to be coated in heavy armor. You get access to light armor and simple weapons, but it's not really going to give you the advantage that a lot of the other classes have. So physically, you do not look that intimidating. So picking up the intimidation skill as a proficiency, which you can do, isn't really going to pay off unless you have a dungeon master you can convinced that your Warlock is actually a threat to their monsters or their NPCs. Warlocks need to rest often, as I said, and Lewis has just pointed out that a short rest usually gets back their limited spells. Invocations, often you need to take a short rest or even a long rest to be able to get them back. Warlocks, as I said, wear light armor. So they're even easier to take down or kill than a wizard. So you have to have mage armor, or you need to stay with the party behind the front line and possibly behind in between the back line. You really want to be the sandwich in the middle. I actually found that as a dungeon master, hitting a warlock is easier than a wizard, because usually a wizard is going to have mage armor straight out straight away. That's the first spell that they will cast at the day, and they'll have that at level 1. Often players won't do that until later on, because they're going to be burning up their only spell slot unless they take rests, and that's always going to be a real pain for them. Eldritch Blast is absolutely vital as a cantrip for the Warlock, because the class abilities and features are all built around pumping up that Eldritch Blast. Now the great thing about Eldritch Blast is, even though it's a cantrip, it's force damage. It does a fair amount of damage for a cantrip out of the cantrip family, so it actually, there are some benefits in having that. But as I said, the whole class is built around the blasting magic of that Eldritch Blast. Spell selection is going to be very, very limited, and you will be able to expand things with invocations, but because it's so limited and you have so few choices in terms of the spells that you know, you're not going to be picking up a lot of utility spells. It just won't be an option. It's not something that you can do. Warlocks don't have that option. Wizards can, but a Warlock, it's very, very limited. I would say that unless you have mage armor, picking up the invocation Armor of Shadows is very, very important. Simply because you've got an invocation and you don't have to burn up that spell slot if you want to use that. You're going to get more spell slots as you level up, but it's usually at the most you might have 2 in the medium section of your level, and as you get higher, the higher tiers, you're going to be maybe 3 or 4. But it's rough because you don't get a lot of spell slots. Charisma should be your highest skill, highest ability, and if you don't have it pumped up, you're going to have a lot of trouble doing. Almost all of your skills are revolving around charisma, and all of your magic and how you cast it is revolving around your charisma. I would recommend having at least a 16 in charisma, even if you've got some negatives in some of your other abilities, simply because this is what you're supposed to do well. It's your personal presence that pulls your magic together, allows you to negotiate with somebody who's probably a lot more powerful than you to give you magic and power and knowledge. And also it's part of your ability to manipulate other people and other creatures. Warlocks are striving for knowledge and magic, and this means power to them. So you should really be proficient in Arcana. You don't have to be, but if you don't have another a wizard or a sorcerer in the party with Arcana, people are going to be looking to your Warlock to be able to deal with those sorts of checks. And I would recommend at least having Arcana, either through a background or taking it as a proficient skill for your class. Warlocks answer to patrons such as the Fae, the Fiend, and mysterious entities. And as I said, I've just shown you a collection of different entities that you could use, and there's no limit. As the dungeon master or the player, you can create as many different patrons as you like. Invocations are the backbone of the Warlock, and in particular the ones that don't use up a spell slot. The ones that don't burn up a spell slot are the ones you can recast multiple times, and this will allow you to actually pump out spells, particularly the ones that might be really useful to you, multiple times. And it's almost as if you've got yourself a cantrip when you're using an invocation that doesn't use a spell slot. One of the great things about the spells that a Warlock has is they don't have to prepare anything. They only know a few select spells, and they either can only cast 1 or 2 of them in a day or before they go and have a rest, or they can just keep pumping those few spells that they do know out constantly. Warlocks aren't really powerful. As I said, I think Warlocks are better as a multi-classing option for characters. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't play a Warlock to a higher level. You can, but I've found that a lot of my players have got quite upset at the power difference as they leveled up. So I think Warlocks are actually quite good at level 1, level 2 and level 3. A couple of levels in a Warlock combined with another class can work really well. Warlocks can also be built around not just their magic but melee attacks, Pact of the Blade, Pact of the Chain, things like that, where you start using weaponry of some kind. Weapons that you can create out of your very power, the power within you that's been granted to you. So this is the gist of the Warlock. I don't know much more than that. I think you'll find that the Warlock is one of those classes where people want to play something that's a little bit darker, a bit more grittier, someone who has a few flaws, might have some personality traits that aren't completely beneficial to a party. But one of the things to remember is, because you are so squishy, you should not be running away. And you know, once your patron is not hanging around, we'll get rid of the patrons, you should be hanging out with your party, because if you don't, you will not last long. Warlocks are not really designed to be going and tanking anything. They're not really designed to go off and hang out with a whole lot of monsters. So make sure you have your party with you so you don't have to contend with getting crushed like a bug, because that's what's going to happen. Now, if you found this video helpful or informative, please share and like the video. If you aren't already subscribed and you like this content, then hit that subscribe button. There's also a bell button beside the subscribe button which you can click onto, and that will get you an occasional notification, which means you get sent basically an email every time I make a video occasionally. It shouldn't be all the time. The other aspect is if you have any questions, I'm going to answer those questions at the end of this during the live stream. If you're not part of the live stream, I will answer your questions in the comments. So put your questions into the comments. I will answer those questions as best I can. I'm going to do additional videos on the Warlock. This is just the first step. Much like the Wizard, there will probably be at least 9 or 10 more videos to come out on the Warlock. So we're going to get into some depth on this. If you have had experience with the Warlock and you disagree with me, by all means, set me straight in the comments or in the chat. Now, if you want to support my channel, then you watch more of my videos. That's really helpful to me. Also, if you want to really support me, I don't do Patreon, but if you buy things from online purchases through Amazon, then I usually have an affiliate link down in the description which you can click on, and that allows you to purchase something. I get a small commission, you pay exactly the same price, and you don't even have to buy the thing I've linked to. You just go through that link and then do a search for whatever it is you want, purchase that, and I get a small commission because you went through my link and you pay the same price. So that's great. And hey, let us finish up and say, till next time, keep rolling those 20s. Here's my big dice. We'll put my big dice in the way. Alright, no, we won't put my big dice in the way because I don't think that's really helpful for the situation. Okay, there aren't too many people in the room, but I'm going to answer the questions, and this is your opportunity to talk about stuff. I know a lot of people are throwing out questions about the Hexblade. I truthfully don't know as much about the Hexblade as I should, not unless we were talking about an older version of the game. I might have to come back to some of those questions, but I'm not going to ignore you. I will do a little bit of research if I need to. I'm just going to populate my table a bit, and then we'll have a discussion about how the Warlock works, and we'll get into the nitty gritty of this whole thing. Okay, so Lewis, thank you for that. Warlocks are godly, especially Hexblades. I think they are certainly working with almost godlike patrons. I wouldn't say they are godly, but you know, look, if you find, look, the Hexblade out of anything is probably a very powerful build compared to just a straight Warlock. The Hexblade has usually been fairly powerful because you can utilize weaponry and your magic combined, and that can be a good combination. Okay, Smash Bro 99. I can't wait to use my Hexblade. Oh, okay. What's this? Thieland 1. Sorry I got late. I'm here late. You are fine, man. It's all right. Getting in late, it's just one of those things. I'm actually a bit late getting up. I just wanted to make sure as many of the key channels that are running live streams were pretty much finished before I started running mine. Okay, Lewis, I saw an awesome Hexblade guide. Glaive wielders can kick out huge numbers. Yeah, well, glaive wielders always have been able to kick out huge numbers simply because of the nature of that weapon. So yes, carrying a pole arm that pumps out more damage than most of the other weapon types certainly is going to help you. Are there any specific questions people have with regard to a Warlock and the general basics? I'm here for a little while. I don't want to stream for too long unless there are, you know, questions that people are sort of really wanting answered. Okay, Smash Bro 99. I was thinking Hexblade into a few levels of fighter, action surge, maybe go into battle master maneuvers. Any other ideas for multi-classing? Okay, so the Warlocks that I have seen played at my table are usually a combination of fighter and Warlock, and that is to pick up the action surge and the second wind, and also any of the proficiencies they might want to utilize. Often I will see a character built and they start with a fighter and they go into Warlock. Because there aren't too many proficiencies that a Warlock has that you're really going to care too much about. So often they'll pick up fighter at their first level and then start taking some Warlock levels and then build it around that. You don't have to do it that way. Another build that I've seen that's been reasonably successful has been Rogue Warlock or Warlock Rogue. That combination can work well. Things that will make them harder to sort of deal with just physically, because they are quite, I mean, they do get a 1d8 or an 8-sided dice for their hit points at level 1, but after that you're only getting to roll an 8-sided dice and add 5. It sounds like a lot of hit points, but it's really not, and you are also going to tend to have a whole lot of problems with your armor class because it will be so low. Because a light armor, the best light armor you can wear is going to give you 12 plus your dexterity modifier, and if you are using something like mage armor, that's a 13 plus your dexterity modifier. So it's a no-brainer that your light armor proficiency as a Warlock is almost completely useless to you, unfortunately. Okay, Thaldan 1, you said packs. What do you want to talk about in terms of packs? There are a whole bunch of different types of packs that you can have. Pact boons, I think is what you're talking about. Pact of the chain, Pact of the blade, and Pact of the tome, which is basically your ability to utilize a spellbook. Okay, Lewis, what have you got here? Sorcerer is a good multi-class for Warlock for caster types. Quicken spell with agonizing blast plus hex hurts like, oh, I can't say that well, that word, like H-E-L-L. Yeah, it certainly does. Because you're utilizing the same ability for your casting, it can work out well. What you've got to realize is, well, are you going to go into Sorcerer first and then go into Warlock, or are you going to go Warlock and then into Sorcerer? So you have to look at what you really want and how you want your character built, and then decide what is more important to you. Okay, I'm just going to shuffle things round while I wait for the questions to come through, and I'll hang around a little bit longer. It seems like most people have asked the questions that they wanted to ask, but I'm going to just shuffle things in sort of the middle of the screen. It hurts like heck. Yes, thank you, Lewis. That's the right. Remember, I'm on YouTube, which means that if I start using certain words, they will start getting upset. And also, too, I'm trying to make the channel more friendly for the younger audience. I would like if you've got kids, I would like your kids to be able to watch these videos and be instructive to them. All right, so there aren't too many questions coming through, and I think maybe this is a good point to stop. I'm going to come back and we are going to talk more about the different aspects of the Warlock. I know this seems a bit strange. It's like I've gone through the classes backwards, starting with I went Rogue, one video, and then I went Wizard, and now we're into Warlock. But we are going to deal with the Warlock in a lot more detail. After that, yes, I will probably do the Sorcerer once we work our way through the Warlock. But what I'm trying to do is make blocks of videos so that I have less setup time involved and it's quicker for me to do. So I did the Warlock for about 10 videos. I've done 10 or 11 videos primarily for Dungeon Masters, and we've done that for the last 11 days. Now we're back to the players. Now this doesn't mean that these videos are going to be of no use to you if you're a Dungeon Master. If you are happy with the content, then forward that content onto your players so that they can watch it. It will reduce the amount of time you spend explaining things to them. And there are many videos explaining how the Warlock works. I'm hoping that I can go into more detail in some of those videos as we go, so that you get the kernels and the detail you need to actually play these classes well. I want to also announce while we're here, and there don't seem to be too many questions coming through about the Warlock, on Friday New Zealand Standard Time, I think I said this in the last live stream, but I did set up a Twitch TV account. Currently the account is Frederick Wheeler, this was all lowercase, Frederick Wheeler 129, and I'm going to live stream on Twitch TV me dungeon mastering with my home group, much like I used to do with the YouTube channel, but I stopped doing that because YouTube kept picking up on it, and my group tends to say a lot of things that can cause problems, and I don't want to get demonetized or lose the YouTube channel. I'm not so concerned about Twitch TV, so you will be able to watch from about 7:30 or 8 PM New Zealand Standard Time, and it should be every week pretty much, on a Friday, 7:30, 8 PM, right through to about 11 PM on a Friday New Zealand Standard Time. And I'm going to, we're going to run through Storm King's Thunder, an opportunity for you guys to see and hear what we do. And I know people have been asking for that for a long time. Thaldun1, thanks mate, I'm just getting back into game after years away, so any help is great. You are welcome. I'm glad I could help. I do realize this is a very basic video. It's not going into the kinds of detail that you need, but each video will build on this as we go, and we will get into the nitty-gritty of the class. Okay, no more comments. I think this is a good point to actually say goodbye, and I'm going to go and have some food. Oh, Onda Kana Gummis. Dude, every time when 1 hour before I go to work, you get online, and I am watching you. Thanks. You made my day. Okay. Dear. Look, the timing for me is actually built more around what I'm currently doing. So my live streams, I realize that for a lot of people, for me to live stream, for you guys to see what's going on. What was the Twitch TV channel? It's actually Frederick Wheeler 129. That is FredWheeler RickWheeler, no spaces. And I will be on there, as I said, New Zealand Standard Time, Friday this week at 7:30 or 8 p.m. right through to 11. And yes, it will be live streamed. I will be pointing the phone, because I'm going to be doing it with my phone rather than with cameras. I don't run my game in my home, it's at somebody else's place, so I can't cart gear around. And we will be basically pointing it at the table so that you can listen to us, and that'll allow you to sort of at least get an idea of what's going on. And I think you'll be pretty pleased with the Friday game, because the heat is coming on, so it should be quite entertaining. At least there should be a lot going on. Certainly you'll get an opportunity to see the mechanics of the game being played on Friday for sure. Okay, I think that's a good point to stop at, and we'll be back tomorrow. I would say I'm going to aim for somewhere around 12 through to 3 or 4 New Zealand Standard Time, and I don't know if that's necessarily going to work out for everybody, but I can't accommodate everybody, unfortunately. Smash Bro 99, can't wait to watch the session. Thanks for everything, man. No problems. Lewis, what have we got here? I would have preferred to have seen your cool hat, but minis are cool too. Yeah, I'm trying to keep the camera off me. One, because the hat is really warm and it's hot for me. And also two, I think the minis are really the backbone of my videos, and my instructional videos have always sort of revolved around miniatures, which is why I thought I would stick the miniatures out, and also means I don't have to change my setup. It all just stays as is, and I might shuffle out the map, change the miniatures, and of course we're going to roll some dice at some point. That's going to happen as well. Okay, alright, that is it. I think it is time to go, and I'm just going to find my little button here. And that's it, guys. You guys have a good day, night, morning, whatever it is, and I'll see you next time.